Melanie, thanks a lot for holding on, and welcome to the Live with Renk show. You went to the state board meeting the other day, which passed this social service studies agenda, the standards agenda. Why don't you explain to everybody what that is, what occurred, and what is the impact of that coming up on the state of Michigan and our children?
Well, we've been working on social studies standards for a couple of years.
I'm having a lot of trouble hearing you. Are
Oh,
you on
okay.
speak? Okay.
I'll speak up. Is that better?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay. We've been working on the social studies standards in Michigan for a couple of years. The first round was very liberal, biased, supported by the Southern Poverty Law Center. The second version was more fair, but the leftists called it too conservative. So we're on our third rendition, which ended up, not surprisingly, being very liberal. And the part that's really shocking is the ignorance of the state board members, the Michigan Department of Education, and the people who call themselves social studies experts. Because, for example, one of the debates was if the United States is a constitutional republic or a democracy. And many people on that side said they didn't understand why the difference is important.
Oh my gosh.
And the standards themselves have no so K6 or 7, they use the word democracy because they think it's too complicated to explain the difference to kids. And then in the middle school and high school, they go to discussing different forms of government, which includes constitutional republic. But there is no standard that says our forefathers debated this and picked one, and the United States is, in fact, a constitutional republic, and no effort to teach the children why this is an important difference.
Well, now let me add to that, if I may, Melanie. Now, what she's talking about, I know many of you know this, but what I first found interesting from what she said happened there, those on the left, who many on the left do not believe people are smart enough to do things on their own. That's why they have to legislate it from the government level, whatever government level, because they have no trust in people and they think they're stupid. And they can't understand, they can't make their own choices. You know the story on that one. And now they believe the children are too stupid to teach. So what else do we need to not tell the truth about? If they believe that it's too difficult to say this to a child. This is how much they have faith in humanity, guys. Oh, we just can't tell them the difference between democracy and a constitutional republic. It's too difficult. Really? In a democracy, everybody votes on everything. In a constitutional republic, we pick people, we vote, everybody votes to choose people to vote on everything else after that. That's the little faith in humanity those people, the ideology on the left has. They actually think kids are too stupid to understand that little bit, Melanie?
Well, yeah. I mean, and Senator Lana Tice used the clip that a lot of people do, and they said, look, a democracy is two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner. And, you know, if you you can explain it so that anybody can understand it, but they don't want to because they want to use the word Democrat and democracy, and they do not want to use the word republic. And they equate it to the parties rather than to a form of government. So there's another really important one, Renk. They don't refer to inalienable rights given to us by our Creator. I mean, first of all, the whole Creator thing, reeks of religious information, so they don't really want to say that. So mostly the words they use are individual rights provided by government. And I
Oh
think
my gosh.
all the people who understand the fundamental difference between a government giving and taking away individual rights versus inalienable rights, which is, again, too complicated for children. But
now, if I may, Melanie, if I may, I want to make sure, because this is a fundamental, mind-blowing thing. They say inalienable rights. They don't want to say that because, again, children are not smart enough to understand this. Little faith in humanity. That it is rights given to you by the government. That's what they're saying. That's the individual rights given to you by government. Did they actually say it in that manner?
Well, yes, and people can read the standards themselves if they want. They're on the Michigan Department of Education. And here's the overarching problem as well. There's they have this arc of inquiry model for learning. So rather than say that it's important to learn any fact, they start every lesson with asking a question. So there's no assurance that all the questions, like, for example, how was our country founded, it will be answered or discussed in every classroom. And then the motivation, the goal of this arc of inquiry is to become a political activist. The fourth step is to take political action, to teach children to be community activists, that this is what a informed citizen is. So,
all right, now hold on. I want to take this slowly, and again, we're having trouble hearing you. I don't know if your phone slipped. There you go. You're holding your phone on your shoulder, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I tried to hold it.
Oh, well, something's going on there. So they actually, do they talk and use the words political activist?
They do. They talk about, or community activist. Those are terms that they have in there. And
all right, hold on, Melanie. I just noticed I'm up against a break. I'll keep you on to the next segment. 269-441-9595. If anybody would like to add to the conversation that we're having, or certainly not just this one, whatever you'd like. It is Free Speech Friday. You're listening to Live with Renk, and we'll be right back after this. You're listening to Live with Renk on this Free Speech Friday, 269-441-9595. If you have a thought about what we're talking about, love to hear from you. Or if not, you don't have to have a thought or opinion what we're talking about. Today's the day that you call in and say, you know what, Renk, you haven't been talking about this, or, you should be talking about that. And instead of all these emails I get from people who read my pieces and then find stuff in there that I never wrote, and then I ask you, come on, call in, let's discuss this, and then radio silence. It's interesting. We'll get into that in a little bit. Maybe I'm not going to bring up that person's email because they refuse to call in, and I know that they have called in the past. So that being said, let's go back to the phone lines. Online with me is Melanie. Melanie is a person who is taking it upon herself years ago to get involved in education here in the state of Michigan. And, here's a good question. I don't have a lot of time, but Melanie, what motivated you to get into all this educational stuff in the first place? It's not like you're paid to do this.
No, well, typical mom volunteer route. And when you actually see what's happening in the schools, you can't help but get more involved.
All right, so you've been heavily involved in this. You're against Common Core because what it actually has done and proven now to be done to our schools. And currently we're talking about the state board meeting you were at the other day where they passed the social studies standards. So that means that's it? It's done? It's over?
Oh, right, yes, and it's going to be implemented in our public schools, and there's very little a local district could do to avoid having to teach the way that it's required because, as I had mentioned and you said, the assessments will be driven in that model. So
yeah, and now what people have to understand, what she said prior to the break, is they're no longer going to teach kids that we're a constitutional republic. They're going to tell them we're a democracy, which is not true. We're a constitutional republic. Certainly younger kids, as they get older, they'll discuss the constitutional republic. We are not a democracy at all. We're a constitutional republic. And also, they're going to teach kids that, no, your rights aren't inalienable rights given to you by God. They are individual rights given to you by your government and can be taken away by your government. That is scary. And also, you're talking about they're going to wipe out the whole JudeoChristian value concerning the founding of our country?
That's right. They really eliminated it, and the whole model is equal presentation of every minority group in the country. So you have to pull out all the Judeo-Christian influence to make room for Islam and Sikh and Buddha and all the others that, yes, those people were around when our country was founded, but it was not their values that were used to establish our Constitution and Declaration of Independence. So,
Well, hold on,
again,
Melanie. You got to take a breath once in a while so I can question these things.
all right.
I'm sorry. So, are you saying complete annihilation of the Judeo-Christian values,
I
or
would
it's
say
just going to
that
be as
right.
equal time to all of them, including Christian?
Well, if you read the standards, there is a very minimal reference to Judeo-Christian values. And the argument is, well, since the majority of our kids are from that background, they don't need to learn about that in public school, too.
So you say if you read those standards, where can they read those standards?
So the Michigan Department of Education, it's just put in Michigan Department of Education, and then look at their main website page, and they have the social studies standards posted, so people can look at them.
Okay.
Judge Warren has been very heavily involved, so you can Google him as well. He's got some pieces published about the standards that are very good. But again, I come back to the suggestion to parents: you cannot unteach these things to your kids when they're inundated by them all day in school. They will begin to believe parents don't know what they're talking about. After all, you can't multiply anymore. You don't know that Pluto is not a planet. How can I believe that you know something more about the Constitution than my teacher? So I advocate that people pull their kids out to homeschool or send to privately funded private schools.
Now, that being said, I got an email as you were online, and it was from, let me see here, Noel, who writes, Renk, after Melanie was on the last time and endorsed homeschooling, I relayed her thoughts to my wife, who is a counselor. She had concerns about the social impact that homeschooling may have on these children who are not being exposed to a typical public school experience. Could you possibly ask her about her thoughts on this?
So the social exposure kids are getting in public school today is terrible. Bullying is bad. The whole sexual inundation, the gay agenda, that whole thing is coming into the public schools. So when you homeschool, you can join co-ops, groups with other homeschool parents, and get together on a regular basis. The Kalamazoo Air Museum, the zoos, the Art Museum downtown Kalamazoo, all have programs especially for homeschooled kids. And so you can engage your kids with other kids in these environments, and you'll know that those other parents are in this environment because they share your values. And so you will be socializing your kid, but with the best kids, not with the kids that are being brainwashed and taught deviance. And, you'll be able to save your own children. And
all right, when I ask you
better.
something before we run out of time, because something you wrote to me the other day, you said also in these standards that good citizenship is modeled by political activism, not informed, hardworking adults. First, explain what did they actually say this, or what prompted you to write this, and what does it mean?
Well, it's in the standards. It says that the goal, what a good citizen does, and so by not teaching the truth about our founding and the facts behind things, kids are clearly not well informed, but they are told to be politically active. Maybe some people saw the fifth grade group that attacked Nancy Pelosi with their teacher saying that she should get behind the Green New Deal. And it's like 20 fifth graders. How can 20 fifth graders really all agree that Nancy Pelosi should back the Green New Deal?
Well, none of these kids below high school even understand any of it. It's all being pushed by their teachers or their parents, period. But when I read that, Melanie, I thought the good citizenship is modeled by political activism. You know what I immediately thought of?
What?
China. They're giving out points, right? You're getting good behavior points, a good citizenship point. Communist, the Chi-Coms. It is communist. I mean, we see it. That's what's happening in China now. And I was blown away when I read that. And I'm like, I got to ask her, is that for real? And you're saying it is.
Yes, I am.
And there's nothing we can do about it now. This school board, the Board of Education, has doomed these children who are going to be learning this baloney, has harmed them forever. And other than pulling your kids out of public school, there's nothing you can do other than counter education, telling your kids not to listen to that baloney, or actually telling them the truth. They're actually lying to them.
Right.
Are you saying the School Board of Education for the state of Michigan is actually advocating lying to kids because we are a constitutional republic, we're not a democracy? So that's actually what you're saying, right?
Well, that's what I would say. That I think they would think I was being unfair, and because they don't understand, they are ignorant. They truly. If you sat there and listened to them, excuse this, you could see they really don't understand. So we have generational ignorance about our founding.
How do we unfortunately get people who are challenged mentally voted into these positions? Because the people who are voting for them are challenged mentally, or what? I don't know.
Well, we had an excellent candidate, Tammy Carlone, who ended up losing after Wayne County results came in. She had won the whole rest of the state. And, there's a lot of people who think that the Wayne County election results were very questionable. And will it be resolved now that we have Democrats in the Secretary of State and
I heard there was voter suppression going on. And, anonymous source from the administration told me there was a voter suppression by the Democrats going on there. Anyway, I've got to go quickly. You had something you wanted to say to everybody?
On Sunday from 1 to 4, we're having Alex Newman, who is one of our national experts on education that is really well-known, well-spoken in Nunica. You can go on the Facebook page of the Freedom Founders Forum and see the details of it, or send me an email, melaniekurdys@gmail.com.
So it is, what's the website again?
It's at the Founders Freedom Forum website.
Founders Freedom Forum website.
Right.
All right. Thank you very much, Melanie, for calling in.